year is like end of 2021, maybe it was 2022. I place a phone call to my little sister. I have two siblings, right? And one that's 9 years younger than me. And I call her specifically for a very specific reason. I need to understand this thing called Instagram. I'm asking her questions like, hey sis, what is a story? And how is that different than a post? I'm like, yo, what is this live thing and how do you go live? I literally didn't understand the platform at all. Anybody besides me ever placed a call to a younger person to understand a media platform before? Yeah, look, everybody has, right? And the reason I was doing this is because I had built my business of selling real estate in high volume primarily through telemarketing, right? Making cold calls to strangers, finding out what their goals and objectives were, presenting my service, and getting compensated when I help them to accomplish their goals. Because that's what really selling is just solving people's problems. I heard a quote though that really stuck with me, and it said, if you're a shitty marketer, you need to become a rock star salesperson. I am a recovering shitty marketer. So I turned myself into a rock star salesperson. I would prospect 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, rain or shine, 280 something days a year. And it worked. The challenge was though, is I noticed that things were changing around me. Anybody besides me notice that the world's changing very rapidly and very quickly? Yeah. All you have to do is look at these young bucks. What is it? The Logan brothers? They're the sharpest knives in the drawer. They made like $45 million last year. Because what they did is they parlayed attention into products and services and into boxing matches and into podcasts and all these other things. Okay, Kim Kardashian, yeah? Smartest knife in the drawer? Nope. Parlayed attention into Skims and she's a billionaire. How interesting. So we're living in a world where now distribution is free. Do you know how much it used to cost you to get on TV? You either had to be exceptionally talented or you need a lot of money. Do you need anybody's permission to post on YouTube now? It's permissionless leverage, guys. You know what you use it for instead of marketing though? Entertainment. Such an enormous waste of this amazing platforms that we have at our disposal. Do you know how much it used to cost you to get on the radio? You either had to be super fucking talented or you needed a lot of money. Do you need anything to shoot a podcast now? Do you need anybody's permission? No. How much money it would take in that previous world before these platforms democratized distribution? That is what has happened, guys. We just don't view it that way. The way we view it is, oh, I can see what my friends are doing. That is so cool. Oh, this can entertain me. Guys, it's silly. We have an opportunity to build a personal brand. So I realized that I didn't really understand this. And I didn't know what the way was, but I was either going to find the way or wake to me because my sister telling me what stories were wasn't going to cut it. So what I did is I did what I normally do when I don't know something, is I get proximity. Guys, proximity is power. You are one relationship away from changing your family tree for the rest of your life. I've probably had 5 of those relationships in my life. I grew up in a household, family never made more than $50,000, $60,000 a year. If the car broke down, my dad had to get a second job delivering pizzas in order to pay for the $900 transmission. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody had that experience before? Yeah, 65% of us have. Because even though this is the richest country in the world, 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck. So there's a very high degree of probability that you'll know what I'm saying. So I needed to get proximity. So what I did is I reached out to my brother from another mother, Jose Morales. He's my sponsor at EXP. He's been a coaching client of mine for about 10 years. And I said, hey bro, who do you know that does media the best? Because he's in a mastermind that you have to own 25 doors just to get in, okay? Expensive mastermind, about 30,000 bucks. I'm like, who in your group does media the best? He said, look dude, there's 3 people who have courses and stuff. Nobody makes more money than Ryan. I was like, who's Ryan? Ryan Pineda. Ryan, like him or hate him, has 6 different businesses that do $1 million a month in revenue. You know what his main client acquisition channel is? Media. Do you know how old he is? Like 34.
Media as in YouTube?
Media as in YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, correct. So I said, okay, makes sense. So just a little pro tip, if you want to get proximity, find somebody that's doing what you're doing and pay them to learn what they know. It is immature to imagine that you can call me and be like, hey, do you want to go out for coffee sometime? I don't need your fucking coffee money. You want to go out for lunch sometime? No, it's not an effective use of time. I'm very busy. So to get proximity to Ryan, I paid him 25,000 bucks to teach me media. Okay? Now some of you might be like, oh, that's outrageous. Okay, attention is currency. When I say the word currency to you, what pops into your head? Money. So if that's what's true, I should be willing to trade money for what? Attention. Does that make sense? So my content creators were on calls with his content creators for a full year. And you know what we did? We sucked everything out of their heads. And now I no longer am unclear about what these platforms are for and how to use them or what the life cycle of attention is. And I've used these platforms to build two separate businesses that earn 7 figures. So I believe that everybody in this room with the right understanding of leverage, with the right understanding of what these platforms are for and actually how to use them, can do anything that I've done in less time. I've spent the last 17 years of my career selling 2,000 homes, 80% of that business being listings sold. I created a coaching company, 100 coaching clients, 30 one-on-ones, 12 of them make over $1 million a year. I own part of an office, I sold it back, and in 21 months have attracted 275 agents to the Elite Builders DXP. You can clap that up. In a marketplace that is, right? Marketplace went down, but we're growing. Why? There's a difference between company momentum and personal momentum. If you have personal momentum, you'll grow in any marketplace. I don't care what's taking place. So what we're gonna do for the next, 30, 45 minutes is I'm gonna go over with you what I've learned about media and how I'm deploying it, right? So that way you can start to garner some attention and we can get more of your unfair share of the business. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, this is like $1 million worth of game for free. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. Good. All right, so I believe that anybody who teaches a class on media should show you their profiles and their metrics. Do you know why? Most of you guys as agents go to meetings where somebody's teaching media and they have 2,000 followers. You want to tell me how that fucking makes sense? You're laughing because it's true. They're on panels with 2,000 followers trying to teach you about media. It's ridiculous. Let's check it out. So here's my YouTube metrics, okay? 263,000 views in the last 28 days. How many people fit in a stadium?
Not that many.
80,000? So that is 3 stadiums full of people watching me. Interesting. Almost 10,000, 9,000 hours of watch time. That's a year's worth of watch time in 28 days. Let me ask you a question. Can you talk to a year's worth of people in 28 days? No matter how many cold callers you have? Nope. Because this is anywhere on planet Earth that there's an internet connection. Do you realize, like if you were around 200 years ago, if you had the best idea on the planet, do you know what you were limited to? The people in your village to tell them about it. That's fucking it. You know what this allows you to do? I can scour the billions of people that are on the planet and find the 6,000, the 10,000, the 100,000 that are into me and how I do it. Make sense? And look at that. You know what that means? We're monetized. That means that now YouTube is paying, yes, team, YouTube is paying us to run ads on our platform, which subsidizes production. Instagram, 487,000 accounts reached in the last 90 days. Go back to how many people were in a stadium? 80,000? What is that? Like 6 stadiums full of people watching your boy like this. I've had a couple people ask me, why am I wearing glasses inside? Here's the answer. The last time I did a talk like this, I had the glasses on. I was dressed up as Travis Kelce, right? For Halloween. My wife was, what's her name?
Taylor Swift.
Exactly, Taylor Swift. It's funny, I remember Travis, but not her. So anyway, and I'm giving the talk, and immediately as the talk starts, I'm like, oh, I need to take my glasses off. And then you know what the next thought that popped into my head immediately was? Leave them on. Do you know why? People can't resist talking shit about him. One post that I did got over 200,000 views. Half of them are like, oh, look at this guy with glasses on the inside. He's such an asshole. Who does he think he is? I'll never trust people with glasses on the inside, right? Look at me. If you can get half the population to hate your guts, you can become president of the United States. You guys are just afraid to get attention. You know what short form content is? 60-second content? It's like sitting in a room of billions of people and going like this. Hey, 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 hey! Why are people going to want to look at you? Because you're like, here are the 4 ways to do a home inspection. No! They're going to fucking swipe immediately. The only person watching that is your mom or your family. It's boring. You understand? So, my intention in showing this is not to brag or boast. It's to demonstrate to you, okay, the proof is in the progress. We've clearly figured this out because 2 years ago, what my feeds were was my wife posting pictures of our kids and what they were doing, which nobody gives a shit about, okay, except our loved ones. So, the reason why I crossed through this is I believe it is no longer social media. We should get rid of that term. It's just media. So when I say media to you, what companies pop in your head immediately? What's a media company? Warner Brothers. What else? Comcast. What else? Fox. What else? Yeah, particularly news. It's fucking entertainment. Huh? Google. Okay. How about like Disney? Are they a media company? What do they all have in common?
Create content.
And entertain you. Do you see? You need to be, look at me, entertaining. not fucking boring. Do you understand? But honestly, what stops us from being entertaining? Judgment, ego. I'm too cool to wear glasses on the inside. People are gonna make fun of me. Oh God, I'm so sad about the people that are gonna talk shit. You realize in 100 years, everybody you know will be dead. Everybody. You think you're that important? You were on a ball spinning around a burning ball of fire at 66,000 miles an hour. Like, and from the last I could tell, this happens once. Why do I give a shit what other people think? That's the main barrier to entry. I want you to understand this. But it's no longer social, it's just media. And as such, it needs to be valuable information that is entertaining. Let me ask you a question. Talking to people about how appraisals are done, is that valuable information? Do you notice the energy in the room? Everybody's like, Is it valuable? Tell me the truth. No, it's not. Because everybody fucking knows it already. Do you see what I'm saying? It needs to be valuable information, but also presented in an entertaining way. Because you're competing with all of these different people for their attention. Make sense? Okay, so it's no longer on the social graph, it's on the interest graph. Here's what I mean by that, is when these platforms came out, it was originally social. So what would Facebook do? Facebook would show you everything that your friends are doing. Then you know what platform came along? TikTok. TikTok only shows you stuff that you're fucking interested in. It is no longer on the social graph, it is now on the interest graph. But all you guys are still doing social. Do me a favor, pull out your phone. Pull up your Instagram profile right now. Yep, I know. Pull it up. Let me see it. Hold on. I love you. This is why I'm doing this, okay? It's not loading. I can see it.
What?
Who's got one that I can see?
My followers?
Yeah. No. They're just profile. So, and I love you, Chris, but this is why we're doing this, okay? There's a picture of somebody in a wedding dress. There's a picture of people playing dominoes. There's a picture of him and some old people. There's a picture of like a kid. There's a picture of his kid and more kids and more kids. This is all on the what graph?
Social.
That is why he has approximately 282 followers. Is anybody noticing this? Do you feel the energy in the room? Everybody's like, boo, fuck, I'm doing it wrong. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Do you see what I'm saying? Is yours the same?
No.
Let me see. So I see here, are you talking in some of these videos?
Some of them.
Okay. Working out, pictures of people standing together, family members, I have no idea who they are, picture of a cruise ship, like I care, other people. You have a wealth of knowledge. You have built a 7-figure business, correct? Yeah. Yes. Why are you not sharing with people specifically how you've done that? What the pitfalls are? What they can learn from you? Because I'm curious, would they be interested in that? Yes. Are they interested in whoever these people are?
Well, I'm not marketing to other agents.
No, I understand that. Not to other agents. I'm saying even for your business. Even to monetize what you know. Because could you create a course and sell it on how to do it? 100%. You may not want to do that. Correct. But the point is let me ask you a question. If you have a personal brand, will it serve you as time progresses? Do you know why? Because you have built-in customers. Make sense? Thank you. So it's the interest graph, not the social graph. Okay? Now, attention equals currency. It's actually more valuable than money. Why is it more valuable than money? Tell me. Who could tell me?
It attracts more followers.
Okay, it attracts more followers. What else? Who could tell me why attention is more valuable than money? This is so good. Guys, we live with these platforms and we don't know the answers to these things.
That's what brings in the money.
It's what brings in the money. What else?
It works 24/7.
Wow.
Not fair. She's married to you.
That's true.
You can get it from anywhere.
It works let me ask you a question. Can you guys work 24 hours, 7 days a week?
No.
Can you work anywhere on the planet where there's an internet connection? Well, you can with this, but can you do it in your physical body? No. So not only is it highly leveraged, the other real value is that the audience compounds. What do I mean by the audience compounding?
It's like the idea of a super fan. That person shares it and that person shares it.
Yeah.
It's exponential.
Yeah, so being that the audience compounds, it means that the audience gets bigger over time. You guys all understand compound interest, right? That's why you invest money. You're compounding. So as the audience grows, what does that mean you can do with that audience? Monetize it in all different kinds of ways, right? Sell courses, sell real estate, get leads for buyers and sellers, attract people to companies, hire people, all different types of things. You think people who have tons of attention have any problem hiring anybody? You think Grant Cardone has any shortage of people that are filling out applications to join his company? All he has to do is post one post and he gets like 1,000 people, right? Why? Because he has a lot of attention. And frequency equals familiarity. So here's what's really cool. Brad, you came from where to attend?
Orlando.
Orlando, Florida. Clap it up for him. Let's go. And check this out. Have we ever met in the physical form until today? And how long have you been interacting with me in the digital world? Few months. And in those few months, when you met me in person, did you feel like you knew me? For sure. You know why? Frequency equals familiarity. Guys, what's the foundation of doing business? Relationships. Do you know what this does? You can send your digital form out to people that they can form a what? Relationship with. It's called a parasocial relationship. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever had like somebody that you were a super fan of, whether it's like Shakira or like some sort of artist or somebody who, now he gets the idea, now he's gonna start streaming it. So somebody that you watch in movies all the time and you hear something happens to them and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened to them, and you feel like they're your family member. You know what's a little secret? They're fucking not. But you what? Feel like you formulated a what with them? Like you know them. Guys, you could do this too. Frequency equals familiarity. Let me ask you a question. How many people cannot not see me on a regular basis on media platforms? Show of hands. Yeah. Every time you open one up, who's there? Your boy. According to Google, people touch their phones 150 times a day. Check a text message, check your calendar, check your email, right? They're on their profiles for maybe like an hour and a half of that, some of you more. What's going to increase the probability that you'll see me? Frequency. You guys posting once a week? Bro, you might as well not even do it. I post 3 to 4 times a day on all platforms every single day, 7 days a week. Because frequency equals familiarity. You feel like you'll know me over time.
Are you taking those same 3 to 4 videos and putting them on
all platforms?
So you're creating like a
correct
one set that can be shared.
Yeah, because what I've learned is that volume matters.
Now, on these different platforms for short form, like, are you taking the exact same video from Instagram? Because for instance, I found that like TikTok, I do better shorter, but Instagram, they kind of like the minute and a half. So are you taking like something, let's say that's like a minute and a half here, taking a clip from that, throwing it to TikTok, and then the overall on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, are you funneling like on Instagram, go to my YouTube, and the same thing with TikTok?
Yeah, good question. Good question. So what we're doing, if you notice, we have video cameras in the room. We're live streaming this on YouTube at the same time, right? So not only are we capturing the long form content, we're going to take that long form content, and I have an editing team, right? A lot of you guys are trying to do this shit yourself. I have a whole team where we're going to send them the raw footage, and what they do is they take the long form, they post it on YouTube long form. I'm also posting 5 long form videos per week on YouTube. 5. Okay? So they'll take the long form, post it on YouTube, but then what they'll do is they'll take that long form, chop it up, and get 12 shorts from it. And then post that on all of the different platforms, depending on which platform is favoring what. So what's interesting is that TikTok actually right now is favoring longer form content. Right? Have you noticed that TikTok went from like nothing to like everything is a shop now, every other thing?
Everything.
Do you know why? They're trying to fucking make money. Because it's very hard to put an ad on a 60-second piece of content. It's easy to do it on an hour-long podcast. Does that make sense? So yeah, the team is the one who allocates length and that sort of thing. They do all the captions, all the editing, all the posting. And what I also don't do is I don't monitor what they post. You know what a lot of you guys will do? Fucking monitor everything. Oh, you gotta change this, you gotta do this. I don't like this angle. No. Just like let it go, bro. Let it flow. Yeah, done is better than perfect. Just let it flow, okay? Because you never know which one's gonna hit. I'll have posts, I'm like, bro, that shit is fire. Nothing. I'll have another because I wear glasses, and boom, like 200,000 people watch it. You see what I'm saying? So you just gotta keep going. Yeah.
When you say you when you say you post 3 times a day,
Yeah.
are you talking reels only, or are you doing stories?
So well, I'm gonna talk about this in terms of like the life cycle of attention. 3 times a day is short form. So that would be Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. That's short form content. And again, short form is more like, hey. It's just getting attention. The goal is to get them to long form, which we're gonna talk about, okay? So which one of these platforms are the best to build a brand? Period, end of story, hands down. Don't pass go, don't collect $200. Now, when I asked real estate agents this, look, she went like, oh, I don't know, that's interesting. Which one? Get everybody, and I'm genuinely interested in your answer. You're not gonna get like a slap on the wrist if you say the wrong thing. What do you think is the best platform to build a brand on? Period, end of story.
YouTube.
I hear YouTube, what else?
For my teenagers, TikTok.
TikTok, what else?
That's what I'm selling.
All of them? Okay. Well, this one is the absolute best to build a brand on, period, end of story, hands down. There's a few reasons why. One, it's the only platform that does long and short form. Two, who's their parent company? Google. So that means you have built-in search. You have built-in search. What I see most agents doing is spending all of their time over here. If you're a shitty marketer, you have to become a world-class salesperson. For 15 years of my career, because of the instruction I was getting, didn't pay attention to marketing at all, so I turned myself into the Michael Jordan of selling real estate. I could list 100 homes a year. I did that 10 years in a row. Did 200 deals a year twice because I didn't understand this. But if you understand this, I can make $1 million a year being a world-class salesperson. I can make $10 million a year doing this. So you just got to be all the way in, and you got to see the value, and you got to be willing to, because here's the other thing I'm noticing is that the barrier to entry is getting bigger. So it used to be you could just flip your camera on and talk, and that worked. That doesn't work anymore. You have to have captions. It has to be quality video, right? If you watch YouTube Shorts, it's got to get attention. You have to edit it proper. Like, the barrier to entry is getting harder. And I think it's only going to increase. Because this gentleman said it's the new TV. I believe that that's true. But will you watch a shitty show on TV that has shitty camera and shitty lighting, and somebody on there that's going,
"Hi, this is the 5 ways to do an inspection"?
You will not, right? So and you can get into this inexpensively. If you go on to Fiverr, you'll find people who can edit your videos. And yet, spend a little on a camera, and it's consistency over time. So it took me a year. I went from 2,000 followers to just close to 10,000 now. I went from touching 8,000 accounts to 250, $250,000. That is 4 football stadiums worth of people watching me every month. I can sell lots of things, right? So you just gotta really buy into it. The tools that you need. You don't really need more than your phone. iPhones are ridiculous, right? But you need a camera, you need some lighting, you need a microphone. Stop shooting videos without microphones. They cost $25 on Amazon. It's a little lapel mic, you stick it here, it'll make you sound like a rock star. If your video is crappy, people won't watch. Doesn't matter if your audio is crappy, they won't watch. So you need a little microphone, it costs $25. You already have the phone in your pocket. You need ideas. Now, the interesting part about ideas is people think they have to create all this stuff. You don't, you could just document what you're doing. It's documentation. The way I started this is when I was setting appointments, I would just flip the camera on and record it. That's it. I'm not doing, you do cool shit all the time. Nobody can see you do it. Right? So flip the camera on, have the presence of mind. Oh, I can flip the camera on right now and just record this, right? And then I need someone to edit, chop, and post. If you're serious, if you want to go all the way in. Because there's some people in the room that still do it themselves. I'd say everybody in the room still does it themselves. Except people that are all the way in, which is like 3 in the room of everybody else. But you start to think with your DIY mentality, because 65% of us came from parents that live paycheck to paycheck, I'm going to figure out how to edit this myself. Good for you. And after 6 months and you post fucking very little, I'll be at like 20,000 and you'll be at like 300, right? So you don't need that much. Cumulatively, between this might cost $300 a month. Somebody to send you ideas, roughly, that could probably be included. The microphone and this. And then it's just consistency. It's volume over time. Most people don't produce 1% outcomes because they drastically underestimate the volume of activity that's required over an extended period of time. So if I told you you could get all the attention that you want, which equals, but you had to post 4 times a day for the next 10 years, would you do it? Yes. Yeah, you guys say that shit. Yeah. You can also, there's this thing called ChatGPT, where you could say, hey, act like a real estate agent, a top producing real estate agent in Plantation, Florida, and give me 10 videos that people would want to see. And it'll go, and then you could go, now act like Mr. Beast and give me the titles and the thumbnails for those videos. And it'll go, and you'd be like, act like a TV producer and give me the actual script for each one of those videos, and it'll go, broop. Guys, there's no excuse, none. It's just insecurity, fear, and I'm not all the way in. I don't understand its value because the things that you make time for things that are important. Do you brush your teeth every day? Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's important. You ever like, nah, screw that brush teeth thing? Do you do that with this though? Yeah. And the real reason so you tell yourself this story that it's all these other things when it really is you're just insecure about it. That's all it is. Right? So here's with ChatGPT. I'm a residential realtor in city state with a YouTube channel. I create videos to educate people on buying and selling in blank. And I explain what it is to live in blank. Please write an 8-minute video outline for blank. It does it for you. Can it be any easier, guys? Now this is $1 million right here, okay? All the ideas you need for a whole year. What's the cost of living in Plantation, Florida in 2023? Pros and cons of living in Plantation, Florida in 2023. Next things you need to know before you move to Plantation, Florida in 2023. Guys, this is gold. If you haven't taken a picture of this shit, like, All you guys are like, I would watch that shit, yeah. Does $500,000 get you in Weston in 2023?
Nothing.
Yeah, a shack, like an outhouse. What does X amount give you in sub-community? But this is, bro, if you do this, these are all your videos. And by the way, you could just interchange the year and repeat, rinse and repeat next year. Do you see? You have everything you need. But now it's just a matter of this, you declaring that this is important. Now, I want to share with you a few things because I know that this is also something. Look, perfectionism is the fear, that says objection, it's wrong. Perfection is the fear of failure in disguise. Perfectionism is the fear of failure in disguise. You're just afraid of failing. And it's unfortunate that in our modern school systems, we still have this environment in which if you mess up, what happens? You get punished. That's fucking stupid because the way we learn is by messing up. When you learned how to walk, did you get slapped on the wrist because you fell down? Can you imagine? How many people have children? Can you imagine as they were walking, like the first time they stand up and fell down, you're like, God damn it, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, seriously, man? By the way, does that baby read the 10 ways how to walk? How do they learn? How many times do they fall down? Thousands. Takes like to a year for them to figure it out. Because how does it start? First they stand up, fall down, cry. Stand up, fall down, cry. That happens for months. Then they stand up, remember when they hold this and you're like, oh, they hold onto the table, then what happens? Fall on their face. Then they stand up and they're like, boom, fall down. And then one day they go, oh, and it's like, oh, they fall down. It takes a while. But perfectionism is the fear of failure in disguise. And the other thing you guys are deathly afraid of, which I know is true, is getting feedback from people. I'm going to read the comments. Actually, I'll pick somebody to read the comments. So this post got 76,000 views. Okay, I want you to understand something. That is 90% the Miami Dolphins stadium filled with people watching. Okay? Who wants to read the shitty comments? This is great. Let's pick some here. Yeah, I was going to have Natalie read, but you can read. You have a big voice. I need you to stand up and read. Okay. Just scroll down and read all the comments, okay? So with this one right there. Loud and proud.
Okay. Hung up with all that extra talking too scripted. I have hung up before while I have you on the phone. While I have you on the phone, click. A motivated seller wouldn't be complaining about getting too many calls. I love when people say, I appreciate that. No, you don't. Mostly good, but as a high D, you talk too much. After the first sentence, you lost me. Jesus Christ, I would have hung up so fast. Best way to make money in real estate is to sell courses to real estate agents, which you responded, and to sell 2,000 homes in your
Because the person who wrote that is sitting in their mom's basement playing video games.
They would have hung up long ago. Great job. Solid, and I like it. If he actually removes people from the list as promised, if they tell him off. Otherwise, he's just another lying sales guy. I would have hung up 1,000,000 times. It's actually embarrassing how hard they try. This conversation ended the second I found out I didn't ask for the call.
Hate is inverted admiration. You know what they're really saying to me? I fucking wish I could do that. But you guys let it stop you. Why should I care what somebody in their basement thinks? Why? You know what I mean? Like, I find it so unbelievable that instead of reaching out to me and asking me questions, look, Jack Harlow has a verse in one of his songs. He's like, look, when everybody loves you, there's only one way to stand out, which is to throw stones. You understand? Like, you guys have to just get past this. You all have gifts and abilities that you're not sharing because you're afraid of somebody saying that your beard is fucking whack, or I don't like your shirt, or you know what you're talking about, or your hairline's too high, or like what. Who cares? In the Bible, it says if there's a lamp that's lit, you don't put it in the closet. You put it on a table so it can shine light to everybody. Stop putting your lamp in the closet because you're afraid of what people will say, okay? With that, I will open it up for a few questions, comments, concerns, if you guys have any, with regards to everything that we discussed today. Yes?
I'm one of those guys with like 800 followers on social media.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of the camera.
Yeah.
There's definitely maybe some insecurities about not getting likes and follows, and I
Yeah.
feel like about really good content.
Sure.
And getting like 60 likes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bullshit. Being said, I really want to get into podcasts.
Yeah.
I started building out an area in my home to do this.
Good.
Full candor, I have a real estate license.
Yeah.
My bread and butter is mortgage.
Sure.
I own a mortgage company. I want to get started with a podcast, and the idea of starting a YouTube channel with nobody following it and getting 0 views and putting hours and hours into this podcast, I don't know where to start.
I appreciate your authenticity and your honesty because I know that, look, there's heads nodding, like your experience is true for everybody. Story's one, story ball. Right. So I had 245 episodes. I was 45 episodes deep with 250 subscribers. Just kept doing it. Now I currently have almost 1,500 subscribers. I don't know if you know this either. Only like 20 million channels out of 150 million have more than 1,000 subscribers. You know podcasts, like something stupid, like 60% of them never get past the first episode? What I've learned is it's really about, if I go on there and I add value,
right,
a lot, like tremendous amounts of value, then over time through consistency, it'll come, it'll grow. So like I could have easily stopped, and it hasn't been till recently, but the other thing I was doing, which was wrong, I didn't have anybody editing any of my stuff. So if you look at my thumbnails from a year ago, they were bad. Now they're good. I didn't have anybody editing with captions. I didn't understand.
In the US or offshore?
They're out of the country, but they
do good work.
They do awesome work. Yeah, if you're interested, just DM me. Like I'll give you access to the company. But let's say you're watching a YouTube. People's attention spans have been obliterated because of TikTok. So you have to edit the beginning of a YouTube like a TikTok. So I start off podcasts. I used to be like, hey guys, welcome back to the Novello podcast. When you do that, I watched on the analytics, 60% of the people fall off. They just disappear because it's boring. Instead, I just interviewed my personal trainer and I said, chicken, something that is a staple in so many people's diets, is actually really inflammatory to their system. That's something people are like, what? What do you mean? Chicken's bad for me. I eat that shit all the time.
So do I.
So, but you see how it captures your attention, and we edit it that way at the beginning. And what I've realized is like, there's like a 10-foot wall to get past in 30 seconds. But if you can get them to watch for 30 seconds, they'll watch for 45 minutes. You just got to get past right? So there's all these different things to learn. So you clearly have the ambition and the passion. I think educating yourself. Again, I got proximity to somebody who's doing it at scale, who gets millions of views every month and has 6 businesses that do over $1 million a year. And social media is the main acquisition channel for him. So I can learn how to do it, but then I need a team. So if you have the equipment, I need a team. Then I need to just focus on adding like as much value as I can, and then understand the equation V over T. It's volume over time. So it's most people, you separate yourself from the pack just by willing to keep going. And then it's just a matter of time. So like I'm just now approaching 10,000, but 2 years ago it was 2,000. But I guarantee you a year from now it'll be like 30. And my future self will be pleased that I kept going. So that's what I would suggest.
We door knock our open houses
Good.
a lot of times, and we used to get flyers out on the door knock, and the back of the page was always blank, so we started adding what's going on in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
like micro marketing the neighborhood, what's happening with market status, or what's happening with the park, and invites to what's going on. And they would keep our flyers, and they would come to the open house with our flyers, so we get a lot less people throwing them.
Well, yeah, and here's what I would think, like I would hand them a flyer, but it has a QR code, and the QR code takes them to a video of the community. And write that shit down, bro. See why your boy makes the big bucks, baby. You see, it takes them to a QR code, and then they get to a landing page, and they can put in information for the updates, but on the landing page, it has 3 videos on it. One about a market update, the most recent market update. Another was like the benefits of living in this community, none of that, right? And what you're doing is you now become the expert in the community, hyper-local expert. Any other questions? I think you had a question too, yeah.
In reference to earlier, you were talking about the avatars. But what do you do if like the avatars have a wide range of both the male and female demographics? How do you make the content to succeed with both?
Yeah, so I think you can still get clear on some demographics as far as like age. We also, like Sonia, she noticed like the majority of people, she's Caribbean, and the majority of people that are moving to Port St. Lucie and buying new construction are Caribbean. Because they all are asking her about culturally what to do in the area. I'm like, well, they're telling you what content they want. So if you started to produce that content, they would watch, right? So I would just kind of continue to like who's doing the business. And then even if it's like they're grouped together, I can still think to myself, like what are they motivated by? What are they interested in? You know what I mean? I can still start to segment out even as a group if I didn't want to niche it down to gender. Does that make sense? And I think too that if you really get into your, you really get into the analytics, you will see that one emerges more than the other. It's usually not 50-50. That's my experience. Yeah. Yes?
Hi, good morning. My name is Valerie Denal.
Good morning, Valerie.
So I don't have a problem doing videos and saying whatever needs to be said. My issue is I can't even it takes me a half hour to figure out how to post something on Instagram.
Okay.
I get frustrated. Yeah. And I'll be like, okay, I'll do it tonight when I'm sitting on the couch for 5 minutes.
Yeah, so my suggestion would be is the solution. Remember how I said about being all the way in? Most people don't want to spend money to have somebody help them.
Yeah, but who's that person? Like,
Okay, there's two sources. One is you can go to a site called Fiverr.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Go ahead, tell me what your concern is about that.
Fiverr?
Fiverr.
I think she's asking like who to choose.
No, I'm saying I don't know how to even do it.
Yeah, I get it. So if you go to Fiverr and just type in video editor, and then
Video editor.
yeah, video editor. That's what you want.
Okay.
And then it'll pop up. You'll have choices, and you pick one. And then they'll edit videos like on a per video
Right, but
basis.
then I have to take the video, and that's a part.
So what you'd have to do is you'd shoot the video and then drop it into like a Dropbox file. So here's what's happening. You're gonna have to learn some stuff. So I think there's only a few things you need to learn. Like one, if you go to TikTok to be like how to turn my YouTube camera into a professional camera, all these videos show up. And there's different settings that you can put on the camera that'll make you turn into HD, right? So that's one.
TikTok, how?
Two, turn my iPhone, because you have an iPhone, into like a professional camera, right? Then go on Amazon.
And buy a
Lapel mic is $25.
I already-
Then, after you shoot the video, figure out, watch Google again, or put a TikTok in again as a search engine, and say, how do I convert a video on my iPhone and put it into Dropbox? Most people aren't willing to learn new shit because they're afraid of failing. But that's the part of the barrier to entry to this. Literally, I had to call my sister 2 years ago and be like, what's a reel? Like, what's this thing? I felt like a grandpa. Like, how do I haven't used this fucking app? What I'm aware of is business is an infinite game. It's ongoing. So business will be here long after we're gone, and it was here way before we're here. If I want to keep playing at a high level, I have to adapt. So there's three types of intelligence that I think are important. Intellectual intelligence, your ability to learn things quickly. Emotional intelligence, your ability to connect with people emotionally. And your AQ, do you know what AQ stands for? Adaptability quotient. Okay, so Darwin said, it's not the fastest, not the quickest, not the strongest that survive. It's the ones that are the most receptive to change. We're living in a time where things are changing very fast, very quick. A lot of people feel like you, like it's super overwhelming. But what's true is if I don't take the time to learn it, here's what's true. If I spend 100 hours on something, I will know more than 95% of the population. It's 100 hours. You guys spend 100 hours on Netflix in like a month. It's just taking the time to learn. And will it change? Yes. But if I'm committed to playing at a high level, then I will adapt with the change. Does that make sense? Yeah. And people who don't adapt, what happens? They get left behind, bro. Yeah. Kodak digital camera was going to take over 10 years before it happened. They had the patent on it. They couldn't bring themselves to cannibalize their business. So now they disappeared. Blockbuster knew. Actually, they didn't know. They were very, they had a lot of hubris and overconfidence. They didn't see it, which we'll talk about in a minute, as far as EXP is concerned. So I would just encourage you to embrace it. You're smart. You figured out how to survive up until this point. Okay? You have intelligence. So it's just something new, and with time you'll learn it, and then you know what'll happen? All your friends will be like, hey, how do I do this? What's also not true is that frustration is not bad. You just start figuring something out. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Our job is to market that product to the consumer who are agents. The 7-level comp plan is how we get compensated, because we don't get a salary to do it. We get compensated. How we get compensated on marketing the product. Okay. We are professional network marketers. So what does networking entail? What you talked about. What else is marketing? Media. So if you do those two things aggressively, then you will be disproportionately rewarded because of the comp. I was like, that's right. That's why everybody should be doing media. Because we get basically paid. We are EXP's marketing force, marketing partner. And they just share half of the revenue with us. Casey was the blonde? The one whose husband died that they gave the award to. She is a professional network marketer. She's been in a network marketing company called New Skin for like 25 years. So she's built a large organization there. Plus she has 2,000 agents here. That's why when I hear her speak, like she knows the end. Like she knows what the business is, inside and out. She gets it and has executed. Well, she's very clear. Because in that meeting they were talking about like how, oh, like, you know, we should make it to where like there's not silos and everybody's helping. And she was like, well, I'd like to offer a different point of view. Like, you want leaders to lead. And it's okay to have like healthy rivals and competition. And if you get beat by somebody that's better than you, like, okay, that's what it is. And you want leaders to lead. She also said that you should keep it like uniform till a certain point, and then like let people do whatever they want to do.
He said when an agent has 500 people under that, they could start their own brand, like their own website.
But before that, they should be under like the brand, like illegal. You know what I mean? It's like, and the way a guy described it, which I thought was insightful, was like, you know, Gary Keller used to tell people this is where entrepreneurs thrive, and he was like, no, this is where entrepreneurs thrive, because it's like we're all the platform is the platform. But it gives us an opportunity. It's like you're in an app store, and you can have your own app in iTunes. You know what I'm saying? And not everybody's going to be everybody's flavor. That's okay. So it's just very insightful.
Personality, approach. There's so many factors why somebody want to join you or not.
Right. Like we were talking with Carla, had like this awareness. She's like, oh, like I can do more of what like I'm doing. Well, and I think Carla in the past, she was like, oh, like I do the operations side. And Aaron does like the traction side. She was like, oh, I can do it. I'm like, yeah. You could have YouTube videos where it says, you want to have a confidential conversation.
I don't have my own behind.
But here's the thing. So what Jose was telling me at his event he was at, there's a guy there that talked about, he's basically talking about duplication, leadership. What he said is there's 12 different skills of leadership. One is like coaching people one-to-one.
Right.
One is like events. One is like running a third-party call. One is like time management. You know what I mean? So there's like 12 different skills, and I told him that would be a perfect thing to talk about at the leadership retreat in the DR. So what's interesting is right now, like, and as he was reading them, it's like email management, like all these different things. And I was listening to him, I'm like, yeah, I have, you know, a lot of those things, but he was saying like, you can also seek out training on each one of those individual skills. So like for you, a skill that's starting to, you became aware of today that you could cultivate is running a third party.
But also having a link and putting it on all my social media and blasting it out.
And your own separate calendar that's not mine.
Right, and having a YouTube video about the model and about why,
how it changed their life.
How it changed my life specifically.
Yeah, and understanding the other different models when they ask you questions, like all the stuff that I'm doing, like you can do that.
But I could talk about my experience as a mom and how I want more time with my kids.
So you can bring that. What I'm saying is like also understanding the difference between the different models. So when they ask you questions on third party calls, you know what you're talking about.
Right, I need to like really know my stuff.
So you've stepped into, let's say, like the skill of events because you've done them. You stepped into media, which I think is part of one of those 12 skills. Then you've also, now it's like stepping into running a third party.
I think the email marketing too, using like the AI prompts, you can create a whole campaign.
Yeah.
So people, they maybe go on your link and they...
Yeah, then they're in the ecosystem, but then they get an email.
You tag them, and then they're getting emails.
Yeah, drip campaign.
Both of you are attracting different people.
Completely. Yeah, what I told her today, I'm like, you will attract someone who will not actually be attracted to me, like a completely different person, and that's okay.
And now that's your superpower as a female.
Well, what really got me is like, I want to help my sister. I feel like she really needs it. And I feel like this gave me kind of like a plan and a path.
And tools and like a mental map.
Yeah, that I could teach her to do too.
It's not her. It's how many other females.
It's not just her. I have a list in my head of other.
It's not just her.
Well, and I think she also became aware because she's seen what it's done for us, and like she knows that what we're doing is like wild. She has this awareness that like she can do that for other people, and that's what like gets you.
That's what gets me excited because like we're good, like, we're financially well off. And so me making more money for myself is not that exciting. It doesn't get me up. But if you tell me that I can help my sister change her life, or other ladies like single moms in the organization, like that gets me excited.
Countless other women.
That gets me excited. Like if I could change their
like legit.
And I feel like it's the first time I saw a plan that I can teach them.
It's good. They have to like, somebody has to tell them to turn it off.
Well,
how many conversations have you had with me about that? Like they have to tell you to be like, yo.
Well, you hear balance. You hear everybody talk about balance. Let that be balance. You gotta balance.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the goal and everything get out of the way to get to the goal.
Sense of urgency. There's not an off switch. And it's a recognition that it's a season.
Right, because you don't want to.
So one of the things that I was aware of too, like let's say you build to like 2,000. The probability, naturally and normally, and particularly depending on where you are in your life cycle, that you're going to aggressively charge is probably small. It's normal and natural.
Sure.
Because at that level, what I'm also aware of is like I was talking to Mike and she hit the 2,000, where he's growing at 100 agents a month, independent of him. Like, when it starts to aggressively build, so as a natural byproduct, you probably want to enjoy some of the fruits of it. And go hiking for 3 weeks, which he's doing in June. Or travel like every, you know what I mean?
Otherwise, why are you doing this?
It's normal, right? It's natural. So it's a recognition, it's a season. I told Carter when we first started doing this, it's the same thing as like with the real estate thing. And that didn't work out the same because it wasn't as leveraged, didn't compound. But it did in the fact that it took me 3 to 5 years to acquire the specialized knowledge to be able to make 7 figures selling real estate. Well, with this, you can spend 3 to 5 years of building and cultivating leaders in that, like radically take your foot off the pedal, and it will continue to grow independent of you.
It's self-sustained.
It's 3 to 5 years for you to have time for your vacation freedom. 3 to 5 years of flying around the country, driving to people, doing events. 3 to 5 years of volume over time. You know what I mean? Like ridiculous amounts of volume over that time frame for the long-term payoff in a vehicle that compounds and is highly leveraged. And people won't understand it. They won't really get what you're doing. But like bees don't take the time to explain to to explain to flies why honey's better than shit. So like they don't understand what we're doing because most people are playing a short game. What we're doing is playing a long game. The issue with long games, it takes a while to get like it's fun and juicy and traction. Sure. And I think that bamboo example is gorgeous. Yeah. It's perfect.
And I think part of it is skilling up.
Yeah.
I had the thought today of, all right, I've been here once before. It was in my real estate business. And now it's just skilling up in this industry. Yeah. And knowing a presentation and how to ask questions of people to qualify them enough to where then it just becomes, okay, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again, I'm doing this again.
Explaining to Jose like that as a professional in this game, it requires similar skill sets, some that are different. And it's the acquisition of those skill sets. Where he was saying he was in a room with a leader that built 1-800-JUNK into the company that it is. And it said in the duplication of leaders typically have like 12 different skills that he mentioned. One of them was being able to do events.
But it goes to a Mark said.
One is learning how to coach one-to-one. One is learn how to build people one-to-many. One was like time management. One is like conflict resolution. Being able to resolve conflict.
So it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
You've already experienced.
Oh yeah. So it was interesting because I was talking to Ricky and his natural disposition is to move away from conflict. He doesn't like it. So there was someone he was talking to who said that they had conflict with Jose because Jose tried to go after a listing that he had. But he really likes me and he likes my content and he watches it all the time and he's like all about it. So he's like, I don't know, like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, it's interesting our different dispositions because I've learned that skill set of conflict resolution, not only through selling real estate in high volume, but I also trained with Rick and with Grimmelton for 10 years. So I know how to constructively work through conflict and do it well. And so his is what do you think I should do? And my answer to him was, get him on the phone right now. Let me talk to him. Right? So other people who don't have that skill set are like, let's see how it goes, like da-da-da. I'm like, no, let's get him on the phone right now. I want to talk about it right now.
Squash it.
It won't go away.
It won't go away. Yeah. But what I thought was really insightful, and I told Jose at the Elite Builders Leadership Retreat in the DR, he can talk about this. So really in building leaders, it's a recognition. I told them what would be really awesome is, let's say we have a board of like leaders in the organization with a report card on those skill sets. So like Mark's like a 10 on this, he's like a 5 on this, he's like an 8 on this, he's like a 7 on this. So that way we know,
Follow on people.
and we know what areas they need to work on and what areas they can help others with. Because if you're a 10 at something and Dan's a 7, I'd be like, yo, you need to talk to Mark about that, on how to do that. And that's super helpful. And I think with radical transparency and with no ego, so with that exercise we did today about like, what are my strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
That requires like you not getting upset about what somebody says accurately about what could be a weakness for you.
And being vulnerable.
Well, yeah, the person who's giving you that guidance is giving it to you from a place of love. Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
Sure intent.
Yeah, and what I think is also true is that with those type of report cards, you know who to match with who would be like really good team to work on something together. Does that make sense? So in a very interesting way, it just happened to be that way. But when we were doing strengths and weaknesses, what Carla's weaknesses are, I happen to be very strong at. And what my weaknesses are, she's exceptionally strong at. So together, we're actually a really good team. And what's happening now is that with what you were saying, you're starting to acquire some of those other skill sets, or you're open to it, and you're aware that through the acquisition of those other skill sets, you can actually lead other people and change their lives.
And I don't have to be as good as you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's a matter of doing it.
Just doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Casey said, the only way that I'm going to get better
Is by doing
it and playing back.
Yeah, because she asked her, she's like, well, as an introvert, how'd you get better at speaking? She's like, I had to speak all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets in our way also is, and I know I've experienced this, is my thought always goes to, well, I'm not as good as. So then I shut down.
When they were asking about production numbers, it's like, who here has sold X amount of homes and you were one of the top 10% standing. So I looked at you, I'm like, do you see, you see what I'm talking about? It's like, that's who you are. Yeah.
What he was talking about, you have, like, for doing these events, there's got to be a skill that you're giving to these agents to go to these events to do it. So, skilling up.
To you, where like you have the intestinal fortitude and courage, where you started doing the events, right?
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, can you want to give me some honest feedback? I was like, yeah, bro, here's what worked really well. Right? And I was like, yeah, and what I'm also aware of is from a speaking perspective, you can get better at telling stories and with interacting with the crowd. He's like, all right, what do you mean? I'm like, you're just like talking to them. And I was like, well, start with a heart story of you sleeping on your parents' couch when you're 30. And then also asking engaging questions. Like, you've seen me speak where I'm like, how many people besides me have ever had that experience? Right? And when I'm walking by people, I actually look right at them while I'm talking to them. Or like, hey, I'm noticing some heads nodding. Or what do you think this means? Where when I did the thing where I was like, who does Michael Jordan's mom represent? And then be quiet. Instead of telling them, because it gets interaction. But you were like, oh yeah, that's accurate. And I can work on that.
Yes.
What are we doing? Where are we going? Nice to see you. And why are we going there? Now, these are questions that me and my wife Carla have been asking each other for the last 20 years. And at first, the answers to those questions were very pedestrian in nature, very survival based. We are doing this because we need money to pay bills. Anybody know what I'm talking about? As we started to earn more money and the money superseded the amount that we needed for bills, those questions started to take on a different meaning. I watched my parents have no plan. You know what their plan was? To work hard. I would watch them distract themselves with entertainment, like Dolphins football games. I watched them distract themselves with alcohol and with substances. And as a result, 30 plus years later, not having a plan has repercussions, does it not? Yes. Riddle me this. Why do we live in the richest country in the world and 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck? Is it because of a lack of opportunity? No. It's because of a lack of a plan and a strategy. on how to accomplish that plan. Does that make sense? So I watched this, and I personally made a decision. I'm like, look, this is not acceptable to me, okay? I do not want the people that I love and care about and my future family, this is before I met Carla, I don't want this to be my experience because it's not fun, because in that environment, things go along with it, does it not? There's substance issues. There's domestic stuff. There's divorce. What's the main reason why people get divorced? Money! And yet we don't have a plan. Our plan is just to work hard, and that shit doesn't work. And yet we keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again, as though something different is going to take place. So I'm like, look, I don't know what the way is, but I'm either find the way or make the way. And really, to my chagrin, after 16 years of formal education, 12 in high school and a few more in college, nobody taught me how to plan. Nobody. Isn't that kind of interesting? They taught us that the Spanish Armada was in 1492, which fucking helps me zero. But they didn't tell me how to make a plan or have a strategy. Nobody. Now, we can get into a nuanced conversation as perhaps that's maybe by design. I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about that. What I am concerned about is I was like, okay, I need to understand how to plan. And I need a strategy. And I can't ask my parents because they don't have one. So what I started to do, I read a quote one time that said, those who do not read are no different than those who can't. Aha! Those who do not read are no different than those who can't. Ask yourself a question. How many books you read in the last 12 months? Interesting. How many? Compare that to how many Instagram posts you've seen. Compare that to how many books, how many movies you've watched on Netflix. Binge the whole season. I know you guys be watching Bridgerton in a whole fucking weekend. Don't front. As though that's going to help you. Do you see? So I was like, okay, I need to get access to this information. So what I started to read, I started to obsessively read books. And then I started to get proximity to teachers, coaches, mentors. Now, I want to rephrase that kind of name because I don't even like that name. Imagine it as a tour guide. What do tour guides have that you don't? Knowledge. And what do they do for the experience? They make it more interesting and exciting and easier. Because if you got dropped down in a country that you know nothing about and tried to figure it out yourself, could you figure it out? Yes. Would it be painful? Yes. Would you go down wrong alleys? Yes. Would you end up in a neighborhood that you don't feel comfortable in? Yes. That is what a guide can do. They can condense decades worth of learning into days, weeks, months, years. So imagine there's like this big peak that I want to go to, and it's far off in the distance, and there's this jungle, and there's a lake. Could you figure out how to get to the peak by yourself? Yeah, probably. It could take a lifetime. But imagine somebody comes out of the woods, they're like, hey man, what's going on? You see that peak over there? I've been there 10 times. So here's what's cool. I can show you the fastest route. I can also show you what to eat and what not to eat. Because if you do it by yourself, are you going to eat some berries and then regret it? Yes. So I realized, okay, I need to get proximity to a guide or multiple guides so they can show me how to do this because my family of origin doesn't know how to do it. And keep in mind, this isn't me shitting on them. They're nice people. They do the best they can under the given set of circumstances. Now, what's also true is they never sought out any additional help or information. And I want you guys to realize something. We are living in an unprecedented fucking time. Do you know 150, 200 years ago, the access to humans that you had was restricted to the geographic place you were born? Now, because of the internet, you're connected to everyone. There is no shortage of information, and it's fucking free. Do you know 150, 200 years ago, people only had one book in their house because they were so expensive. You know what it was? The Bible. That was it. Now, you could have somebody, this titan of industry, who's sold a company for billions of dollars, and they could say, hey man, I'm going to tell you everything I know, all my mistakes, all my pluses, all my minuses, and it'll be $30. And you're like, wow, you know, it's a little much money there. I don't know. That's dumb. Guys, information is currency. Write it down. Information is the real currency, not the paper shit that you chase after. And we live in a time where access to that information is unlimited. Okay? So I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money to get proximity to people who could show me and teach me a way of planning and strategizing. And what that has allowed me to do in a very short period of time is to not only sell 2,000 homes in my career, the coaching company, that sort of thing, but also make pivots and changes very quickly. So 18 months ago, I was selling 150 homes a year and coaching 30 people one-on-one and the rest in groups, about 100 total. And now today, I haven't gone on a listing appointment in 10 months. I have 212 agents in an organization and I'm financially free and independent. My intention in sharing that with you is not to brag or boast, it's to show you how fast that can happen with the right plan and the right strategy. Does that make sense? And I believe that everybody in this room with the right plan and the right strategy, you could do anything I've done or others that you admire or watch their podcasts in half the time because you have tools at your disposal that they did not. Things like the internet, things like platforms that make distribution free. How many people see me on a regular basis online? Is it possible for you to not see me? No. All day, every day. Do you realize back in the day, you used to have to spend thousands of dollars to get in front of people? Now it's free. But you're like, well, I don't like the way my hair looks. You see what I'm saying? You have tools at your disposal. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to go over probably like 45 minutes, maybe a little more. I'm going to walk you through how to create a plan and how to think about strategy. The same tools that I use to consciously and purposely create a life by design. Not taking what comes, not working hard and hoping it works out, but creating the life that you want. Who's up for this? Say aye. I'm sorry, the energy's not right. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. Good, now we're in the right place. So, I think you're recognizing by now that this is the good shit, not the bullshit. I know you guys have been to networking meetings and shit with agents that is completely dumb and makes no sense and is pointless. You're like, well, I did networking. That's dumb. Okay, so we're going to learn some shit today, but this is going to be interactive. It requires you guys to participate. So don't be shy. You will get the most out of this that you put into it. Understood? Yes. Understood? Yes. Okay. So to get our brains to start to think about creating a life by design, I have a couple things I want to ask you. The first is, are you making C+ choices and praying for an A+ life? Yes. Look at the heads nodding. Hey, people are looking at me like, how the fuck did you know that? Are you making C+ choices and asking for an A+ life? What would be an example of C+ choices? Not reading all the time. What else would be an example of C+ choices? Not having a plan. What else would be an example of C+ choices? Who wants to tell me?
Not prospecting.
Not prospecting. And imagining in a marketplace where we go from 6 million sales to 4.2 million sales, that's going to work. It won't. It's a weight loss program. You'll starve to death. Okay? Am I making C+ choices and expecting an A+ life, praying for an A+ life? And I want you to realize where you are currently is the culmination of planning and choices you've made up until this point. Where you are currently is the culmination of planning and choices that you've made up until this point. Now, I know that the human tendency is to want to place blame where? Elsewhere. It's the government. It's these fucking taxes. It's the state of the world right now. We want to constantly and perpetually be placing blame elsewhere. Why do we do that? It preserves our ego. Makes us feel righteous. It's a status game. Status games are dumb. Because what's the reward you get for winning a status game? Nothing. You know when people comment on my posts and it makes them feel better about themselves? It's a status game. I'm like, that's dumb. You know what I'm playing? Wealth fucking games. Do you understand? Really, really think about this one right here. The issue is not getting what you want, it's deciding what you want. You guys are capable. You know you have the same force inside of you that makes the sky, blue and the grass green. The same force inside of you makes the earth spin around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. Google that shit. That same force is inside of you. Why do we limit it? Why? Why do we not think about what we actually want? Why do we settle for what we don't want? Because it would require me to change. It would require me to admit I'm not as cool as I am, as fast as I am, as smart as I am, as good as I am. People say to me like, oh yeah, I'm a master at scripts. I'm like, how many deals you do? They're like 30. I'm like, you're not. Ha! Right? It's just not true. So the issue is not getting what you want, it's deciding what you want. Isn't that right, Esteban? Esteban is a coaching client of mine. How much volume will you do this year? 12 million? Solid volume, right? Doing deals, making lots of money. He's young, handsome, makes a lot of money. You know what his challenge is? He's like, yeah, I am handsome. You know what his challenge is? Deciding what he wants. Because he could stay perpetually on the hamster wheel doing deals and getting plastic awards like he's the fucking shit. Right? But he has to decide, what do I actually want? 5 years from now, do I still want to be slanging shit? He told an interesting story where he worked as a valet, back in the day when he was 18 in Miami. It's all cash under the table. He's making what he perceived to be a lot of money at 18 years old. He was the man. You know what he did? He looked around and he saw 40 and 50-year-olds still doing it. He's like, oh no. I don't want to be fucking doing this when I'm 40 or 50 years old. And then he pivoted and he made a change. See, there he was thinking about what he wanted. You understand? But then you can start doing well, making money, and you stop thinking about what you actually want. Okay? So, intentionality in creating a vision and a strategy. Okay? This will ensure, with a high degree of probability, you'll end up in a specific destination. Because I don't want to leave it to dumb luck. Most people don't realize, there's actually 4 types of luck. The first type of luck is dumb luck. What would be an example of dumb luck? Win the lottery. By the way, my parents would buy lottery tickets. That was their plan. Anybody else besides me ever seen people do that?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's a tax on the poor. They keep half that money? That's my plan. Work hard and buy lottery tickets. Okay? There's 4 types of luck. One is dumb luck. The second form of luck is where you take massive levels of action and hustle and determination and discipline, and what happens is you become an expert at something. And then people seek you out for your expertise. See, I role-played twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years. Hand-wrote out scripts, prospected 6 days a week for 15 years. Now do you know what people ask me for?
Your script.
And advice. And they pay me for it. People say, you're lucky. Am I? Or did I create my own luck? What's going on? How you doing, brother? Nice to see you, bro. You got a little 5 o'clock shadow today, dude. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, just checking, bro. I don't know. You're normally like super baby-faced. What I wanted to talk to everybody about today are these assassins of success, right? And this is coming from a book that I read and I'm currently reading by Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. It's pretty interesting, Jose. I don't know if you've had an experience where you read something and like immediately you know that it's accurate because you've had direct experience with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And immediately when I read this, I was like, oh, it's 100% accurate. Because I've had the good fortune of coaching agents for over a decade and going through that process myself of building a business. I knew that what he was saying was true. So we'll go over these, and I think it would be kind of interesting for me and you to reflect on kind of our journey and even currently today, which one of these or combination of these assassins pops up. Because I know it'll be beneficial for not only me and you, but for everybody else. So there's 5 different kind of assassins that can slow down progress, let's say, right? Because success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal and objective. Worthwhile is important. Trying to become the best drug dealer is not a worthwhile goal and objective. But the progressive realization, so progressive meaning like over time, and it takes time, and realization, materialization of a worthwhile goal and objective. And these assassins, in my opinion, they slow down progress, okay, towards that worthwhile goal and objective. The first is the staller. So the staller can be described, if we're personifying the staller, as, when there's a decision to be made and you procrastinate making the decision. There's an invoice to be paid for an event that you want to attend or something that you want to do. You've received the invoice. It's been in your mailbox for a month and you still haven't paid it. Or there's a decision that you're making about perhaps, changing models or changing a company. And you're just stalling on making that decision, right? And I know for me personally, I don't know about you, Jose, and I've known you for a while. I don't think the staller is like your sort of thing. Actually, it might be just with people. But for me, that was something that was slowed down my progress, was perhaps stalling, like knowing that a decision made sense, but like taking too long perhaps to make it, right? So for you, did the staller ever kind of show up for you, and in what way?
I think it's just in different areas, and I got a list now. I have braces.
Oh,
right
look
now.
at Jose. You got braces, bro. What'd you get, Invisalign?
No, I got the ones that go behind the teeth, but I'm having a little bit of trouble adjusting to saying certain things. So it's going to sound a little bit funny, but we'll work with it.
It's all good. How long do you have to have them on for?
1 year.
Okay.
Or less.
Did you stall on getting them?
No, I actually did not.
Okay,
Once I made the decision, it was kind of like, all right, I'm thinking now I maybe should have stalled on getting them because of the way that I sound.
Yeah.
So I think the opposite of it. But it was kind of like one of those decisions that I was like, okay, I want to fix the bottom teeth and I needed to get it done. So I don't think there's ever a perfect timing to get it done. But I'll tell you where I have stalled. I've stalled in keeping people at my company that it hasn't worked out for a period of time. And I've known that it's not working out. And because I don't want to go out and find somebody else, I've stalled keeping them at my company for too long. Or sometimes because I felt bad for that individual, like meaning like, oh man, like this individual has a family, or this individual has this, or like, yeah, so I would say I've stalled. There's certain areas where I have stalled, and there's certain areas where I don't stall. But I could see even when I was considering moving to EXP, Lars took me through the third-party process and kept scheduling calls with me until he scheduled like 2 or 3 of them. He's like, so what should we do? And he kind of gave me that little extra push that I needed, but had I not been put through that process, I could have seen myself stalling a little bit longer on making the decision, basically. And I think when people stall, there's usually some sort of fear in the background. Like some sort of fear is usually in the background, and it could be different things for different people.
Yeah, and for me, the fear was just letting go of like money. Like that's usually when stalling happens, right? It's like, oh man, or the perceived like, oh, like, this might result in like a reduction of revenue or something like that. So kind of stalling on making a decision. And I see this regularly. I mean, we see this with people that we have calls with where, fear trumps facts, bro. So we'll give people the facts and it makes all the sense in the world, but they'll stall. Well, I got to wait for this. I got to wait for fucking this, or I got to see what happens. I got to talk to this person. Like all of that is just a mechanism of stalling, right? The second, go ahead.
Hold on. I think what's equally important is what message are you telling yourself when you notice that you're stalling? So I'll give you an example. Like when I was stalling on moving to EXP, I went to my previous broker, and my previous broker was telling me that my business was going to drop because Remax had the #1 market share in the area, and that the reason people did business with me was because I was with Remax. And my business grew at Remax, but then I started challenging that thought. I'm like, is this a real thought? And I was like, okay, Meet Kevin's not with Remax. He makes a lot more money than I do. Ryan Pineda's not with Remax. He makes a lot more money than I do. And I started naming different people that weren't at Remax, yet they had successful real estate companies or even just businesses in general. And what came to the surface was that it was a limiting belief. It was a story that I was telling myself. And I'll tell you, like, another thing that's happening right now that I got braces, like the first thought that came into my head, I'm like, fuck, are people still going to want to do business with me? Am I going to be able to explain things to people the same way that I've been explaining things to people? Like, most of my selling is over the phone, and some of it is in person. And your voice over the phone is extremely important. And you know, the message I gave myself this morning, within 24 hours of me getting braces and me going through that, I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, I'm actually going to be better than I was because I'm just going to adapt to whatever it is, you know? But initially I was like, maybe getting braces wasn't the right decision. Maybe I should have waited a little bit long. And this morning I started changing the messaging that I was giving myself about the decision that I had made, basically.
I love that. And what it makes me think about is my son. He had Sebastian. He had to bring home a baby. It's like this very $1,500 like not real human baby, but like a kind of robot baby. And the baby cries, and you have to like change its diaper, and you have to feed it, right? And it wakes up in the middle of the night. So in middle school, I think it's a good way for them to experience what actually having a baby is like. It's a form of contraceptive in a way. And it was interesting because I heard him doing that with himself in the car. So I took him to his soccer practice. You have to bring the baby with you. Baby starts crying. He's like, Dad, can you help out? You got to do this stuff. And like, yeah. And then he's in the car. You know what I hear him saying to himself? It's only 2 days. It's only 2 days. I'm only gonna have to do this for 2 days. Like, he was prepping himself mentally, just like you were prepping yourself mentally. Like, this is what, I'll just handle this. But to your point, I think the staller shows up. And if you see yourself stalling, a really good question to ask yourself is like, what am I afraid of? Like, what's underneath it? Is it a fear of letting go of money? Is it a fear that if I do this, to your point, people are going to think I sound silly and they won't want to do business with me? Is it a fear of how I'm being perceived? Is it a fear? And I think, people would see you, Jose. I mean, you're the dominant king of, Oxnard, let's say. And they'd be like, man, Jose doesn't have those thoughts. It's like, sure he does, man. Like, it's normal. It's natural. It's just that he countered it very quickly and was like, nah, dude, that's not going to be like true.
It was probably within, if you count waking hours, it was probably within 10 hours that I started changing the messaging that I was giving myself. The other thing I would say as it relates to stalling is just anytime you're going through something like this, is just noticing it. That's the first step. You can't change something that you don't notice. So I noticed it and I was like, okay, I got to change the messaging. But here's what I would say to people. And you said this to me a long time. He's like, how can you expect clients that you're meeting with at a listing presentations to make decisions on the spot to sign a $20, $30, $40, $50,000 contract to work with you when you're stalling to make a $10 decision as to which something should I buy next? So the reason Aaron is saying that these stallers kill, they do, because you can't ask somebody, or you're not going to be good at asking people to make decisions on the spot if you're not good at making fast decisions yourself either. So that's what he means by that. These assassins kill
progress,
the goals. Yeah. Progress.
Yeah. And they kill progress. 100%. That's exactly right. So yeah, it's comical to imagine that, like, you get upset with someone when they're, want to think about a really big decision with so much money on the line, where, we will we'll put something in a cart in Amazon and won't buy it for like 5 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, come on, dude, those two things don't make sense. Remember,
or even shopping around. Or even you shop around, like you're like buying a $500 something. You'll spend an hour, 2 hours shopping around to see different things. So when people are going to sign a $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 commission, like, it's a big decision for them,
Yeah. Do you remember when we did that role play? And I forgot his name, but he would like always ask, and he doesn't show up anymore. But we were talking about the commission, And then I started to close Jay, and I was like, hey, so do you think if you talk to me on a regular basis that would that would improve your business? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, how many more extra deals do you think you do? He's like, I don't know, like probably like 10. And I'm like, great. And what's your average commission? He's like, $15,000. I'm like, wow. So in other words, you can make an extra $150,000 if you talk to me on a regular basis. He was like, yep. I'm like, great. I'm going to send you the coaching agreement at $2,500 a month or whatever it was. And then he got like, oh, wow. I'm like, wait, time out, bro. You were just asking somebody for like 30 grand and you get upset when it's time for them to like make a decision. But here you are stalling and slowing it down, right? It's the same thing. My intention in doing that for him was for him to see like, yo, you're no different. You're doing the exact same thing, right? So it's not that we make decisions hastily. I don't want people to hear that, but it's more like when you've done the research and the homework and it makes sense and I'm still not doing it, you're stalling.
Well, and then here's the other thing. Like, so my question to people is, what are you stalling on? Like, what is it that you're stalling on? And just know that this stalling mechanism is I'd probably say one of the most common ones that most people stall on making decisions.
Yep.
And if you're able to make decisions faster and move forward in lieu of fear, you're able to basically accomplish, like, I've had fear at different stages of my career. Like when I bought my first apartment complex, like a lot of people would have bailed out on that. They would have been like, oh no, there's too many uncertainties. There's too many unknowns. Sometimes the question I ask myself when I notice I'm stalling or I'm kind of hesitating, which is kind of similar, is like, what's worst case scenario?
Yeah, you do that regularly when we've been around each other. You're like, what's worst case scenario?
I think I jump faster at worst case scenario than most people. And I always jump faster at second or third step. Like meaning like, okay, if this happens and this, but I'm already thinking about 2 and 3. If that happens, and then if I'm okay with worst case scenario, or if I'm okay with second or third layer consequences, then I'm good with it and I'll move forward with it in lieu of, despite me not knowing everything as well too. But I think that can help people as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So good. So that's the staller. So go ahead and drop in the comments if the staller has showed up in your life before, and if so, around what. The next one that we can talk about, the next assassin that slows down progress, is actually the opposite of the staller. It's the speed demon. And what the speed demon does is they make decisions like very, very fast and then never take the time to reflect on when it didn't work out. And then as such, they just continue to keep repeating the same mistake. So an example would be like, oh, they hire out of pain, not out of gain. So I need somebody right now. And they look around, they're like, oh, well, my cousin needs a job right now. And they just like pull them in. And then it doesn't work out. But then they never take the time to reflect why it didn't work out. So then they're doomed to repeat that over and over and over and over again. You know, if you've ever noticed, Jose, I'm sure you have because you've been in business a long time. Like I've noticed like, you know, some people like have a really hard time with not only hiring, but retaining staff. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why, right? It's because they make decisions like super quick and they think that's the way. And they just keep plowing through by making more decisions on top of it. But they never actually take the time to reflect when it doesn't work out. So they're doomed to repeat that poor decision over and over and over again.
I think a lot of that has to do with like thinking long term as well too, as opposed to short term. Mm-hmm. And I think the reflection part is the key. And I think it's funny because when something doesn't work out, like we lost a deal right now that it was the owner wanted a cash offer and I went for a listing instead of a cash offer. And guess what? Who he sold to?
A cash offer.
A cash offer, 100%. So like the very first thing that me and the gentleman I was working this deal with, we were like, okay, like what could we have done differently? Like what adjustments could we have made? And then at first it was like, no, everything we did was good, but that wasn't the case. I'm like, no, I probably should have paid attention to this. No, he let me know of this versus that. No, this and that. So we're like making adjustments right away and being like, because what happens is that sometimes you get comfortable. Like I had been selling properties to a hedge fund and the hedge fund wasn't interested in buying it, but I had a wholesaler that has helped me with dispositions in the past. And I probably could have just tied it up and basically worked with him on this deal, and it would have been like easier. So it just taking the time to reflect, I think, is a key, but making sure that when you reflect, you're coming to the right conclusion. Meaning sometimes people will reflect and it'll be like the wrong conclusion, meaning like it's outside of me. Like, let's say that for that person that is hiring people and it doesn't work out, they're like, oh, well, the job market sucks, or there's no good employees right now, or everybody out there, or I'm the only one that's going to be able to deliver on this. So sometimes people in that reflection, they blame things outside of them versus being like, what could I have done differently, and taking ownership of that. And I think that's also a key, making sure that you take ownership of whatever doesn't go right or the way that you want it to go right.
Yeah, I agree. What I wrote down as you were saying that is like extreme ownership and just like accountability. So instead of placing blame externally, you know, like, well, they weren't the right fit, or like the job market sucks, or it's so hard to find good talent, or, you know, that sort of thing. It's like, all right, well, how did I contribute to this? Do I have an SOP around hiring? Did I use a personality profile? Like, you know, did I hire out of pain instead of gain? Is there a training process that's in place that people can follow, and for 3 weeks they don't actually do anything until they go through that training process? Like, what is the system, right? And yeah, and then if you do that, so pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain plus reflection equals progress. The issue is when people experience pain, they usually don't take the time to reflect. Instead, what they do is what you were saying, which is blame. And that's problematic, right? It's not mature. It's not a way to like grow. If you just take the position of extreme ownership, which is a wonderful book by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, you know, it prevents you from trying to place blame elsewhere, and causes you to actually learn and grow as time progresses. So making decisions super quickly and not reflecting is also something that stifles progress. Now, me personally, that's not something that like one of the assassins that, you know, show up for me. And I'm imagining it's not really one that shows up for you that much, is it?
No, I think that I have pretty good judgment, because I typically do reflect on a lot of things. And here's the thing that I do as well too. Not only do I reflect on the things that happen to me, I reflect on the things that happen to other people around me. And that usually helps me out tremendously. Like, it was funny because my dad would tell me stories growing up. And one of the stories would tell me, hey, you see that gentleman over there? And I'd be like, yeah. He's like, well, that guy used to make a lot more money than I did. But what he did is he partied his money away, and I basically invested in real estate instead. So I reflected on that, and I'm like, okay, what's the message there that I received from it? I'm like, well, you can make a lot of money, but if you're pissing it away, there's a time and place where you may not be able to make the same amount of money. And if you pissed all that money away and you weren't smart with your money, you may wish that you were in that position again where you were making that $1 million a year, and you may not be in that position in the future. So because you piss it away, you have a lot of regret. So I'll reflect on things that happen to my friends. I'll reflect on things that happen, like things that I hear from clients. And that helps me be like, okay, like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, or I want to do this instead, you know?
Yeah. And the thing that you also do too, because I've been a part of that, is you also triangulate with people who have demonstrated track records of good judgment over an extended period of time. So not only do you come to your own conclusions, but then you will reach out to people that have demonstrated track records of good judgment, which we would label those people believable. And then you triangulate with them. You're like, yo, this is what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think?
I'll ask them what they think.
Yeah, and me and you do that with each other regularly, where like you'll be like, yo, what do you, and I'll do that with you. I'll be like, yo, what do you think? And then because we both have demonstrated track records of good judgment over an extended period of time. So, you know, if you don't have people in your ecosystem to that effect, like seek them out, you know, you could always reach out to me or Jose and ask a question. I'm not saying like we're perfect at judgment, but we definitely have demonstrated track records of good judgment over time.
I started reading this interesting book about leadership and duplication. But it talked about leadership being really just like different levels of consciousness. And the first level of like leadership or consciousness is like to me. And it's like victim mentality.